everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Monday, October 14, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. Excuse me, we'll be having a Time for Change call this week. Wednesday, a little after 9:15 p.m. Eastern. Helping others is it is actually a natural state of being for all of us. It's just that we get so intertwined with our physical material worlds that we live in what? We live in stress and frustration, and it doesn't mean we don't have fun times or happy times, but it's mostly we're looking at suffering of some sort because most of us are in the ego mind and it is our master. And unfortunately, the majority of the population of this planet doesn't know how to be in the now more than a couple of seconds. So it stays in the ego mind, and that is not our natural state of being. And one might say, well, the ego mind is, it's an illusion. Yeah. Well, who created it? We did. Why did we create it? So that we can master it. I know that might sound strange to people, but this is what we do as gods. We create to experience. That's it. And knowing that we are omnipotently powerful supreme beings that never die, then it's, it's kind of like, I'm going to go on this adventure will be over. And then I'll move on to something else. But we're always creating our experiences. Now, the flip side of that is that the majority of us do not know that, nor do we believe that we are that powerful and that we do create our own lives. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that our lives are a mess. It just means that however, in this very moment that you are living your life is the result of how you have manifested your life, period. And there's a lot of influences there. We all know that. None of us are exempt from the influences of the programming that we experience from babies all the way up into fully formed bodies. And then that's how we do it. We live our lives, and many look outside of themselves for assistance, when all along the assistance is within. It really is ironic that all of us have this ability, this power. The majority of us never, ever use it. That's a riot. Because we're guided and geared and supervised into the direction that just about everything is outside of us. You got to go look for it, find it out there, not within. And so you look at that for millions of years, and that's why we are the way we are. That's what we do. We enter these bodies, and these bodies are magnificent. And so we're susceptible. These bodies are very emotional, so we're susceptible to being distracted and misguided and given information that is totally untruthful. But we embrace it. We don't have any comparisons to make. So we go with it. And we embrace it. And we live it. But some of us, however, begin to say to ourselves that there's something that's just not fitting right. And that doesn't mean that we're, attacking our lives and we're not in a negative. It's just curiosity that we're Sometimes you feel it when you're very young, other times you'll feel it later on, or even in between. And then you begin to say, I know that there's something inside me that isn't this body. And you'll get glimpses of it. Things will happen where, and they don't have to be huge, but things will happen and they'll kind of spark you. And it might be more than one. It usually is kind of spread out. And you start paying more and more attention to these kind of like heads up happenings. Now we've all done the material physical for many lifetimes. We've been all kinds of things, experienced all kinds of stuff, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But we never really have gone the opposite direction of what we have all experienced in so many lifetimes. And what is that? Well, it's always the material physical, okay? We come into these baby bodies and then we experience. Now, obviously, as children, we're not, how do you put it, we're not really controlled, so to speak. We still have our childlike curiosity front and center. We're asking questions, very curious, and we manifest. But the reason we manifest is because we're so innocent. We don't have all the stuff that eventually we pick up along the way. Different happenings, different experiences, heartbreaking, disappointments, a lot of different things. And oftentimes we will turn on ourselves and become, and I've seen this happen so many times, where people can be reverent and good people and caring, and it's almost like they disintegrate, transform. They become irritable, angry, confronting, which they never were anywhere near that before. Okay? Now, one might say, well, there's a lot going on. Well, there's always a lot going on this planet. There's just a lot of it we don't pay attention to. But even though, there's people that believe they know themselves, but they don't. See? If they were in truly through heart-mindedness, they would not be irritable, upset, angry, and they would not strike out to people or be so judgmental of others. That's all ego mind. All ego mind. And so you see this, I almost call it a corrupting, where people become, and they don't know it, it's not like they're doing it on purpose, but they start dropping into lower frequencies. They don't know it. Even if you said to them, hey, you notice that you're becoming more and more negative and more combative, and distrusting, and they'll most likely, not all the time, most likely, become confrontational with you. This is why we observe and watch and not judge. Judgment is the course of the ego mind. And those of us who, when you're watching and observing, you pick up a lot more stuff than you would in the ego mind judgment arena. Because you're not judging anybody. you're watching, you're learning. It's like, why would we want to be watchers? Observers. Because we aren't interested, of being in ego mind. Now, we don't let the ego mind know that, because then it becomes even more secure and does everything it can in its power to keep us off track. So we love the ego mind, embrace the ego mind, genuinely, because all the ego mind is looking for, as I've said, is peace. That's it. It believes that it will find it out there. How many times have we, through how many lifetimes, have we just figured that we're going to go out there, right, and we're going to find peace? And in just about every case, we don't. We find facsimiles of it, but it doesn't last. How many of us enjoy being with oneself? I mean, truly enjoy it. Most of us, because of the way we have been influenced, we say that we're lonely, right? Or they don't like being alone. Don't like being alone. And the funny thing is that none of us are ever alone. For example, you could be with a group of people everywhere, but yet you feel alone. You ever done that? You ever been with a group of people and you feel alone? And you say to yourself, why do I feel so alone? I have all these people around. That's ego mind, not heart mind. As heart mind is, you're just embracing who and what you are. Being in the now, heart-minded, eliminates all of the ego mind stuff permanently. When you stay in heart-mindedness and you're not ego mind and you're in the now, you begin to master the ego mind. And then eventually you do master it. And you master your thoughts. And all the stuff that we are presented with while we're in this lifetime, other lifetimes, like, the noise, the mind chatter, the noise, all these thoughts that aren't ours that we'll, embrace, bring into our reality and experience it. All the worries and stresses and fears and anxieties, but because we're living in yesterday and tomorrow. And none of us are exempt from that, because we've all experienced it more than once, where we slip into it. Start worrying about a month from now, or 3 weeks from now, or even 5 hours from now. Or we go into yesterday and worry about things there that are already gone, past. And between those two, we're pretty well occupied in a lot of emotionality, where we're worried about what other people think and say about us, right? There's a lot of people say, oh, no, I'm not worried. I've watched people that say, oh, no, and then watch what happens when others say things that aren't too nice to them and how it affects them. This is ego mind, see? Once we can identify these things through our heart minds without judging them, actually embracing them, because if it wasn't for these things, we wouldn't be where we're at right now with comprehending that our journey is within and everything else is a piece of cake. When we discover that the journey is within and we decide on our own that we're going to stay within, you'll float off into other directions. That's pretty much okay. And then you identify with it and you'll go back into the now in the heart mind. And it's just practicing. It's because you're motivated and you want to practice it. Why? Because it's for you and for anybody else. You don't do this for anybody else. You do it for you. Every one of us do it for ourselves in heart-mindedness. We don't do it because we feel pressured or, pushed or manipulated. Well, I better do this or else. We do it because we want to. And goodness gracious, we've been on the other side so many times and so long. Isn't it? Don't you feel it like uplifting, higher frequencies, loving oneself much deeper, forgiving oneself much more, embracing oneself, having a wonderful, loving relationship with oneself? Or people can choose to continue to reincarnate for the next 100, 200, 300, 400, 500,000 million years and do the same stuff pretty much in the material physical world with the ego mind as your master. That's a choice. But there is that part of us that says, but I want to know what I really am. That's a good thing. It's childlike curiosity. So we begin the journey within. We discover a lot of things about ourselves without judging ourselves, without coming down hard on ourselves, without, ridiculing ourselves. I've seen people just totally eviscerate themselves. There's something so tiny and small, but to them it was humongous. And boy, if you ever come down on yourself, it takes a while to recover from that, if you ever do. And yes, we're not running from negativity either, say. There's still going to be things that we feel are not too palatable. But as we progress, we become less and less engaged in that. In other words, something comes along that you would normally just grab onto and experience, and it may not be that great. And then when something similar comes along, you just aren't interested in it. You just let it pass right through you. Okay? And it's gone. See, thoughts are really just thoughts. They're nothing until we give them power. See? We energize them. We bring them in, right? We create them into our reality and experience them. This is what we do every waking hour. Now, it's pretty easy, of course, because we're all being so lambasted by so many thoughts. Thousands of them every day, over and over and over again. So it's not difficult for us to grab one of those, is it? Seems like it's our thought, right? So we grab it, bring it into our reality, create it into our reality and experience it. We don't know, most of us, that when we generate thought, it comes from us, not to us. See what I mean? All those other thoughts that come to you are not your thoughts. But the ones that you generate, the ones that are your thoughts, okay, you send out. And your thoughts are more precise because you're following your heart mind. You're with your heart mind. So the things that you desire or want are much more refined, not helter-skelter. And then you give that to yourself. To free ourselves and to find everlasting peace with ourselves is to master the ego mind. Because all that stuff, pain, suffering, disappointment, anger, frustration, are gone permanently. One might say, well, wow, that's boring. Not really, because we have not experienced the other side. We haven't experienced that. Have you experienced bliss on a 24/7 basis? Have you experienced being at peace always with yourself, which means everything around you? Nobody on this planet has. You believe that Siddhartha, or the enlightened one Buddha, or Jesus, enlightened one Christ, those are definitions of awareness, not really names. Do you think they were fully enlightened? No. They still got angry, they still got upset, and they still were confrontational at certain times. And the progression, as you can see, as you're observing or watching, has really been supercharged. It's like you say to someone, you ask them, do you truly want to have several lifetimes with this type of pattern of life? I believe that most people would say no, not at all. And while you're in the body, definitely make the effort to discover who and what you are in that body. Definitely make the effort to meditate. Meditation is prayer. Meditation is the way we communicate with the God within us. Meditation is how we communicate with all life, all that there is, ever has been, ever will be, ever beyond, and forever. Now, how many of us do you believe on this planet meditate every day? Okay? Very, very small amount. Why is that? Because of the challenges and enticements of the material physical world. Okay? The material physical world is great. It's just that we haven't learned how to navigate it. Haven't learned. We get too far in, and because our ego mind is so sensitive, we're always protecting ourselves, putting up false walls around our hearts, And the opposite is what we would really choose to do. The opposite is what? Finding peace within ourselves. Interacting with the God that we are. Letting go and surrendering. Letting go and surrendering your life every day. So you can be renewed, reborn. And that little fear that people will have whenever you say let go or surrender, they get this little kind of a little fear spark. And what's that about? Ego mind. It's ego mind. It's insecurity. When you become 100% confident, trusting, and faithful with yourself and this universe, you will have mastered the ego mind, you will have mastered your thoughts, and you will be in perpetual peace. And you will have learned that you can manifest anything, heal yourself immediately. You see, you're the whole package, as they say on this planet. You're the whole package. You are everything. You have it all. That's a fact. It isn't wishful thinking or smoke and mirrors. It's the reality of who and what we are. And we all have this. It's not like, oh, well, they have it, I don't. That's ego mind talking. Because more and more of us are finally getting it. They say, this is all about me. And again, we're not doing that in ego mind, we're doing it in the heart mind. Because it is all about you. Talk about a journey, right? Journey, you find out who and what you are. And you embrace it. You have forgiven everything across the board in this lifetime alone, and any past lifetimes, of anything that you feel bothered with or guilty about or any of that stuff. You're immediately forgiven. Who do you think is creating fifth density? Who do you think is creating New Earth, God, planet, paradise? Now, we're in deep gratitude, of course, because had we not experienced all this stuff through all the lifetimes that we've experienced, even though we don't have recollection of those lifetimes, so to speak, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. We wouldn't be so aware of what's happening around us. And there are those of us that are. Now, we're not being judgmental, maybe a little frustrated at times. But when you look at that and say, we're coming out of that stuff because we've decided to come out of it. It's the only reason. Our collective consciousness is increasing. And when that happens, we become more reverent to ourselves and others. We have a higher amount of gratitude for ourselves and everything else, respectability for ourselves and everyone else. It affects everything across the board. It isn't just segmented or little areas. It's all of it. When you truly love who you are and what you are, exactly the way you are right now, then you're on the road to peace, everlasting. When you don't feel compelled to ridicule, criticize, or judge another, then you are on the road to complete peace. You live in a state of gratitude, not taking things for granted. You live in a state of pure, deep, eternal love with yourself and everything around you, everyone around you. You get a feel of this when you're around people that have embraced, we're not talking about religion, this is different. This is totally different than religion. It's a spirituality of our awareness of who and what we are. We're aware of our spirit, our soul, the God that we are. And we're very grateful that we have these bodies to experience life in a material, physical way. And all the things we take for granted, well, because, why? We grow up with it, right? We smell, taste. It's like when a child enters a bakery for the very first time, right? You ever done that when you were a kid? You'd never been in a bakery, and they're still around. There's still some bakeries around. And you walk into the bakery, and you feel like you're in some kind of fantasy world. You know, and little kids, you're looking at these donuts and pastries and candies and cakes and pies, and you're like in euphoria. Because as a kid, they look a lot larger, and then later as an adult, they look a lot smaller than when you saw them as a kid. But this is really great. That's what it's like when you first start to discover that you're the God in the body. And tasting and smelling and laughing and crying, all of this, well, it's part of life. But I'm going to tell you, as I've said before, when you leave the body, you don't have any of that. None of it. You don't get thirsty, so you're drinking really good water. You know, you don't know what it's like. You forget what it's like to have a really good vanilla ice cream with a really good chocolate sauce. You don't. Those things are gone. And they fade very quickly once we've left the body and the life that we have experienced as souls, spirits, God, pure consciousness, however you want to label it. It's like you have eyesight, right? And then you lose it, and you're completely blind. But at least you could see for a period of time. And you could, and what's the difference now that eyesight's gone? You're deeply grateful that you're alive, or your hearing, right? Or your sense of smell, your sense of taste. What would we do, right, if we didn't have any taste buds? Would we be motivated to eat? No, you wouldn't be able to taste it. We would be hungry, of course, but we wouldn't have any motivation to eat because it would all taste like paste. These little things that these bodies have been designed for are us gods to experience all of that. Laughing for no reason. Have you ever done this? Laughing so hard. And it really wasn't a joke. You just, all of a sudden it hits you, and you begin to laugh to the point where tears start coming out of your eyes because you're laughing so much. You don't know why you're laughing, but you're just really enjoying it. Very healthy for these bodies, laughing. Really is. But do you see many people laughing? No. Do you see anybody swinging in swing sets or stuff? And I mean adults. No. Can't do that. You're an adult. You've got to be serious about life. Well, yeah, there are certain things about life that you focus on and you take care of. But not to the extent where it's like, you know, you're on some suspense thriller ride. But every time, and during the quiet time of this meditation, when you're relaxed into the body, you're in a very comfortable position, you have no outside interference, you're as still as a statue, you're focused on your breath rising and falling, the space between heartbeats, and you're just being in the now. And review, okay, how wonderful it is that you can taste, right? That you can laugh, you can cry. That you experience different scents and sceneries and beauty of the God that you are all over this planet. That you have eyes to see with. Lungs to breathe with. Ears to hear with. I'll join you in the meditation. I'll return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose. And an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still, relaxed into the body. Focused on the breath rising and falling. When we awaken to the truth, we realize that at the deepest level, everything is an illusion. Fear is a projection of the mind, a construct that exists only within. In this comical game of existence, the very thing we avoid one day becomes what we chase. The greatest treasures are often hidden beneath the very fears we seek to eliminate. You don't need to conquer anything. It's okay to live with this fear, but remember, you are not defined by it. Who you are transcends all thoughts. They are like passing clouds in the vast sky of pure awareness. Return to the eternal truth within by realizing that your mind is the source of all creation. You are the light of pure consciousness itself. You are the essence of freedom. Did you notice how quickly fear dissolves when you simply see the truth? You've got this. Take this with you for the rest of the day into the evening and night and the following morning. And we will return here Tuesday, October 15, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, purest of the purest purest, eternal gratitude at all times. No matter what's happening within you or outside of you. Open your heart and allow the magic to flow in.